In this video, I'm going to show you how I created this image in my studio with some pretty simple materials. Well, it is a dreary day outside. I had some downtime, so I figured I would create an image in my studio with some stuff I have lying around. Really simple stuff. So I started with really these grasses. You can see them well on the camera or not, but these are in my yard. I went out and picked them. And I noticed yesterday when the sun was getting a little lower, these grasses were really picking up the light so nicely. There was almost a glow to them. So that was kind of a spark for me. I should get them in studio and light them the way I want to light them. So this is what I started with. So the next thing I grabbed was a bunch of these old bottles that I have. I bought these at an antique market in Connecticut. I'm pretty sure they're old medicine bottles that date back, some of them I think 100 years or so. But they're all glass. They all have kind of an interesting color that's in bluish tint to them. And I just went out and bought them really for stuff like this, just to have around so I could do some still lifes. And I have about, I don't know, 8 or 9 of them that I set up on the table back there. But these are really cheap to buy and just fun to have lying around. The next thing I needed was some sort of backdrop. And fortunately, I had this old, it's not so old, but a roll of black fabric. I bought this at a fabric store. These women are starting to know me because I go in for backdrops sometimes just to use simple fabrics. But this is, I don't know, you can't really tell, but it's a fairly thick black velvety fabric that really absorbs light really well. Again, not really expensive. I keep it on the roll. I put it up on a C-stand with an arm, with a clamp, and I'm able to use it as a backdrop for stuff like this. So by far the most expensive item in this shoot is my light. I'm using a Profoto B10x. And I've got a 1x4 foot softbox. These are relatively new. I generally wait until I make a little money in photography and then I spend that money with gear like this. So this is a strip box that is working out really well for this situation. Now on the front of the strip box, I do have a grid. You can see that underneath there. And what that is going to do is really limit the light, and I just want it to hit really just the grasses and the bottles, a little less on the background. Not really necessary because that background is really dark, but it does help a little bit. So this is the setup. I took, looks like I've got 7 of these glass bottles, and each of them I put, 2 or 3 or 4 of the grasses. And I just love the shape they're making, very, very natural. I didn't really place them too carefully, but it worked out pretty well. There's some crisscrossing going on in there. And I didn't agonize over the placement of the bottles, but I made sure the taller ones were in back, so there's a little bit of depth as you go back. Now, it looks kind of bright in here, but my settings on my camera are such that I hope if I take a shot without a flash, I won't get any light in the scene at all. So let me just try that. And by the way, I'm at 1/250th of a second. That's my flash sync speed for the camera. I'm at f8 and I am at ISO 100. So let me take a shot from here and I get a black screen as you see. So that means all of the light hitting the scene is light that I control, which is always important when you're shooting in the studio. Okay, so let's put my light on. I can do it up here. Luckily I know where all the buttons are. I'm going to put my trigger on. This is my Profoto flash trigger. It's an older one, but it works pretty well. So now my flash is on. By the way, I'm using 85mm lens. Not that important. I think you could use any lens you want, but in this case, happens to be a really good lens. I know it's always sharp, and so I'm going to get a shot from here. And yeah, you can see what it looks like on screen. So this is a raw shot. This is no editing at all. But if you get the lighting right in studio, you don't need to do a lot of work in post, which is the case here. I think the key to this shot is the placement of the light, which is basically right on top of my subject. because these grasses are going to pick up that light really nicely. There's not a lot of light that gets pushed onto the background. Again, this is pretty dark anyway. You'll see a little bit of light on the tabletop, which is black, and that's okay. I want to see a little bit of detail there. I just don't want floating vases and grasses. But having the light on top really creates this drama. So what if you don't have a flash at all and you want to create something like this? I mean, you always have light. It just comes in through a window, assuming it's daytime. So let's try to recreate something like this just using the window light. Let me grab my camera. I'm going to turn the lights off in here. So I'm really just getting the window light. Hopefully it looks a little darker to you. Obviously I'm going to change the settings on my camera. So there's not a lot of light in here. So I'm actually going to boost my ISO quite a bit. I'm at ISO 6400. I opened up my aperture. I'm f2.8. So the depth of field is going to be a little bit of an issue, but that's okay. My shutter speed is 1/200th of a second. And I could play around with these a little bit. I don't need to go that fast. It's an 85mm lens. But if I do that, yeah, this is what you get. It's actually pretty cool without a flash. Again, it helps to have a really dark background so the subject matter pops. So really it's a matter of finding really cool subjects and always keeping your eyes open for them. Hopefully getting some lights. If you don't have lights, you can always use window light, and creating a scene that you think is interesting and hopefully some other people do as well. Okay, last one. Let's say you don't have a light and you don't have a camera. All you have is your cell phone. If you get the right setup with enough contrast, and you see there's a great contrast between the grass and the black, the bottles in the black, you can use your cell phone. The only thing you really have to do is lower the exposure a bit. Your cell phone is going to try to get everything as well exposed as possible. You want this a little underexposed so that the grasses pop. So I'm going to take this shot. I'm going to just pull down my exposure quite a bit over a stop. Get in nice and tight. And bam. Let's see. Oh, this is pretty good. I'm going to crop it a little bit and I'll show you right now. So this is what it looks like. I hope you can see that on there and that it's clear. I'll put it on the screen anyway, but so you don't always need all the fancy gear. You get the right setup, the right light, create some really cool things. Well, I hope you got a kick out of that video. Fun for me to make these things, honestly. If you did like it, it helps the channel just to give me a thumbs up. And if you like this kind of content, studio stuff, obviously I do a lot of architectural photography, Photoshop tutorials, landscape, photo critiques. Subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss future videos. And until next time.